I'm Ron Yamamoto. This is The Minute. Tensions on college campuses over the war in Gaza are escalating. In Los Angeles, riot police cleared a clash at UCLA between pro-Palestinian protesters and counter-protesters who launched fireworks into tents. The university canceled classes for the day. Alameda County voters will now get to decide whether or not to recall District Attorney Pamela Price. The Board of Supervisors gave them the green light for the vote. Another meeting is set to decide whether to have a special election or add the recall to the November ballot. Ferry service is up and running again between Sausalito and San Francisco. The Golden Gate Ferry service was suspended last month after damage was spotted on one of the 4 piles of the Sausalito Pier. Repairs have been completed and the pier was declared safe. The Bay Area's only primetime newscast 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus 44 Cable 12.
It has been a beautiful, warm, dry day for us today, and we're going to continue to see that weather last into our Thursday and Friday forecast as high pressure continues to move in from offshore. But then we see a big change as we head into our weekend forecast as a storm system approaches from the north, bringing in a cold front that will change the weather completely. We're talking about rainy skies by Saturday, cooler weather too, and of course some gusty conditions to match it all up. And speaking of gusty conditions, our inland areas are under a wind advisory, at least near Solano County, until 5 o'clock today. With that in mind, we can see wind gusts close to around 30 to 40 miles per hour at times, but we'll also notice that along our coastline, despite the fact that we're not under a wind advisory there. So if you live near Bodega Bay or Half Moon Bay, keep in mind those winds are going to last into the evening hours tonight. At least it's dry though. Once we head into our Friday night, early Saturday morning forecast, that's when that cold front approaches, bringing in a series of showers for us all throughout the Bay Area, and then we dry up quick as we head into Sunday. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Let's take it a step back and let's talk more about today though. 70s are expected for us today up into the North Bay near Napa and Vallejo, and we get so close to the 80s up in those communities, but we actually hit the 80s once we head off into the East Bay near Concord and Antioch, with upper 70s stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley. But I can't forget the coastline too. 60s in the forecast near those microclimates today, upper 60s near San Francisco. Let's take a quick look at what we can expect in our inland areas real fast, and then we'll head to the Bay. 80s and more, well, 70s at least as we head into our Friday forecast. It's not until Saturday where that cold front comes in and really drops those temperatures fast into the 50s, but then we have a nice recovery. Into Sunday and Monday we go right back up into the 70s for our inland areas. That's going to be a beautiful forecast for us as we head into next week. But if you live along the bay, closer to Oakland or San Francisco, we're holding on tight to the 70s for now. We'll cool down into the 50s as that cold front approaches, and then averaging out into the 60s as we head into early next week with partly cloudy skies in the forecast.
Well, San Francisco's nightlife has been a big part of its comeback story. The mayor says it's one of the key elements bringing people back to downtown. And she's touting some promising numbers. The city controller's office reported a jump in new restaurants and bars opening in the city. 99 new businesses opened in February and 147 in March. The mayor said the city is trying various strategies to cut red tape, like getting rid of the entertainment license fee for new businesses in their first year.
What you all represent in providing nightlife and entertainment in San Francisco is exactly what's so important, not just for our economic opportunities, but it's important so that people are happy and they feel great.
And the San Francisco coffee shop has built up a name for itself as one of the few late-night cafes in the financial district. But its hours are just one part of what keeps customers coming back. Lorene Ayub introduces us to a unique cafe that's sharing the story of the Yemeni culture through coffee.
Coffee from Yemen. It has more history than you might think. I'm at Sona Cafe in San Francisco, where authentic culture is served in every cup. There is a lot of history in that latte. Sam, one of the managers at Sona Cafe in San Francisco's financial district, says he's proud to share his Yemeni-style coffee with new guests.
We're just trying to bring our culture into the city, into the States in general.
A culture with deep roots. Some of the most ancient traces of coffee cultivation began in the country of Yemen, and Sam takes delight in serving others with that history in mind.
That's why you have the word Mocha. Mocha is actually a city in the country of Yemen, Mocha in Arabic.
But in a time of great turmoil in the Middle East, Yemen has been facing severe challenges of their own, including an ongoing civil war, a famine, and proxy geopolitical involvement.
Yemen has always been in those ups and downs, but thank God we always find a way to solve our problems.
And Sunak Cafe's way of solving it is by offering up the sweeter side of their community, which he says is often unseen. Being from New York, he's dealt with his fair share of negative stereotypes.
You're always going to have that negative perception from people, but you got to take the positive with the negative.
But the residual effects of 9/11 aren't the only concern for the Arab and Muslim community. The Council on American-Islamic Relations received 756 civil rights complaints in California in the past year, documenting hate crimes, hate speech, discrimination, and more. That's why Sam cares deeply about introducing his community to the neighborhood with care. Donovan Vickers, a patron and student at the nearby Academy of Arts, loves that the cafe is one of the few shops open late in the neighborhood.
I was just looking for cafes to come during breaks, and then I came over, and my man's behind the counter. He was super helpful with helping me try new things and stuff, and so he already adapted me. I feel like I'm a regular now.
Whether it's the distinct Eastern spices or the variety of pastries, Sam says the cafe is just getting started.
That's how you introduce yourself to other cultures, is trying other things, People love it, so just ask questions. We're all ears.
All with the mission of sharing the warmth of Yemeni culture, one cup at a time.
And Lorraine tells us the cafe is doing so well, plans to open more locations in Oakland and New York City. Today, workers here in the Bay Area and around the world are marking May Day. Hotel workers in downtown San Francisco are demanding raises and better health care coverage. Their contracts expire this summer. The unions also include janitors who work for companies around the Bay Area, and our Sean Chitness caught up with one employee who's preparing to take action.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Kamucha King says they're ready to march on May Day with plenty of signs and employees who want to fight for better pay and working conditions.
We're here to make a statement.
She's a private dining server who works to take care of room service orders at the St. Regis in San Francisco. She's had the job for almost 20 years, working there since it opened.
I do like my job. I do like customer service. I do like what I do.
But Kamucha says she can barely make it right now to cover the cost of housing and medical bills, especially with back problems and a daughter who has asthma.
We're here ready to ask the companies for respect, ask the company that we need to better treatment, better wages, better health care.
She says hotels in the city are constantly understaffed, and that means more work for those who are on shift.
We need more people to come visit San Francisco. As less people are coming here, unfortunately, that results in less needs.
Alex Bastian with the Hotel Council of San Francisco says not enough people are visiting the city after the pandemic. His organization represents the vast majority of hotels in San Francisco, but he's not a part of union negotiations.
If we work together, especially during these difficult times, we will come back better and stronger than before.
He says it's no secret that hotels are losing money right now, and they're having to operate with less employees because of empty hotel rooms and not as many tourists compared to before the pandemic. Alex says the focus needs to be on getting more people to come here and spend money, which requires the entire city to make San Francisco more appealing to tourists.
There's a lot of money coming in, and we, the workers, only want our fair share of that.
The union argues that while the pandemic has affected operations, hotels still managed to increase profits in 2022. They aren't giving any specifics on what kind of increases they want yet, saying May Day is an early reminder to make a good offer when their contracts are up later this year.
When hospitality can survive and when hospitality can thrive, that's good for each and every San Franciscan.
We deserve it. We work hard for the company. We deserve that respect.
A shared goal to make San Francisco a better place for visitors, workers, and residents, but different views on what it will take to get there.
And we reached out to the city, the San Francisco Travel Association, and multiple hotel groups for comment on today's march, but I have not heard back yet. Still ahead on CBS News Bay Area, hundreds of jobs at the Postal Office are up for grabs, but will recent attacks on the job turn applicants away?
Something that you have to assess risk with anything you do.
Plus, an untold story 8 decades in the making, how a stretch of land in Utah became a safe haven from some Bay Area residents trying to avoid internment camps during World War II. And how an East Bay city is taking action to honor the indigenous people who lived on their land for generations.
It is another warm and dry day for us today here in the Bay Area, with 80s in our inland areas and 60s and breezier conditions along the coast. Of course, all of our microclimates are doing something just a little bit different. We have 70s up into wine country. We have 70s down into the Santa Clara Valley. But heading into the next couple days, no matter where you live, we're going to enjoy this dry, warm weather until the weekend, as daytime highs drop down into the 50s with rainy skies as a cold front approaches us. Luckily, it only lasts into Saturday, because by Sunday we warm up once again.
Well, whether they're at your local post office or they come to your home to deliver your mail, postal workers are a part of our neighborhoods, and you may even know them by name. Their jobs are important, but not always easy. Recently, they've become targets for thieves, and in some cases, even being attacked while on the job. Right now, the Postal Service is trying to fill 600 positions. It even held a job fair in Menlo Park yesterday. And our Amanda Harry caught up with Jada, who is one of the applicants who is holding out hope for a new career despite some of the occupational hazards.
Managers with the United States Postal Service say they are looking to hire as many people as possible. They say they're severely understaffed, meaning many people have to work overtime, leaving them tired and possibly more at risk.
Yep, we're hiring.
I know it's a good job that you have for a long time.
Jada Reese stopped by the Menlo Park Post Office to send out a package when she stumbled upon the Postal Service career fair. So she took her chances and filled out an application.
I was told that there's a lot of opportunities for career advancement. I have a pretty good relationship with the carriers in my community, so I figured it would be like a good way to get some work experience and be connected to the community.
Reese says she's looking for a job that has the potential to become a career, and that working for USPS fits the bill. Right now, Post Office Operations Manager Riza Yumol says they don't have enough staff to work efficiently, and they're looking to fill hundreds of positions for essential employees.
We have a lot going on, as I said, mail handler, clerks, even custodians and carriers, so we are hiring right now.
This is surveillance video from an alleged robbery that took place in Oakland last month. USPS says the suspect didn't take any mail, just the postal keys. Those keys can be used to open potentially thousands of mailboxes. Yumol says they try to give their employees training to hopefully avoid becoming victims of mail theft.
When we hire people, that's the first thing we do. We make sure that they know about safety, they have trainings. We make it a point to be with the new carriers every day for the first 2 weeks, and then after that, every week until probation.
USPS says mail theft is a federal and state crime. They offer a $150,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest of a suspect in these types of cases. But Reese says she's not going to let these incidents stop her from pursuing a career with USPS.
I hope that my life is not going to be affected by it. But I think it's something that you have to assess risk with anything you do. Yeah, I think that would probably have to be like a fluke sort of thing.
Interested applicants can still apply on USPS's website. Managers are hopeful that they can get more people hired soon so the people they already have aren't overworked.
In response to the thefts and attacks, the U.S. Postal Service rolled out a number of changes, including higher security mailboxes and electronic locks to prevent the need for those so-called arrow keys that thieves are often after. Well, today marks the start of AAPI Heritage Month, and we're kicking off our commemoration by looking back at a dark time in our history. This past February marked the 82nd anniversary of FDR signing an Executive Order 9066, sealing the fate of more than 120,000 Japanese Americans living on the West Coast. Families were rounded up and sent to one of 10 internment camps across the country. Their only crime, they looked like the enemy. But a small group of Bay Area families were able to escape the camps and live free in the state of Utah in an area called Keetley Valley. It's a story that very few people know about. It's also a personal story because my family was there.
Careful. It's just down this way.
What if you could follow a road that led to a path that opened the door to your past?
After you done.
What do you think you would find?
Oh, here.
It's all part of a journey. A man rediscovering himself, a father sharing his story with his son. That father who just happens to be my dad.
What about that photo there? Which one's you?
Me? I'm the munchkin, back row, third from the right.
Yeah, that's the suspenders.
Yeah, hanging onto my suspenders. Apparently the photo was taken by some journalist. Because, see, the Japanese did not have cameras. They're all confiscated.
Is that why there's not that many photos?
Yeah, I think so.
The rare childhood photo of my father, a snapshot of a much bigger piece of American history. On December 7th, 1941, Imperial Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, thrusting the United States into World War II.
I was 4 years old when the war started. All of a sudden, the Japanese were not Japanese, they were Japs. That was in the newspaper, newsreels, radios, it's Japs, Japs, Japs.
As the U.S. government rounded up 120,000 Japanese Americans and imprisoned them into one of 10 camps across the country, my father's family turned to this man, Fred Wada, an Oakland produce owner who refused to go to the camps and decided to gather a group of 130 family members and friends and travel to the state of Utah to an area called Keetley Valley.
When they arrived in Keetley, it was snow-packed. When the snow melted, they expected to farm the land, but it was all rocks, rough. In fact, there's a picture of the men trying to clear the field, and behind it was a bulldozer just to clear the rocks.
Life was hard, but they were free.
Why go to Keetley? Why not go to camps?
I know my parents, they had their reasons, real heavy reasons. He was an illegal alien. My mother expected my father to be arrested.
And this little-known story all but washed away when in 1987 the state of Utah built this dam, flooding Keetley Valley and destroying any remaining remnants of the colony.
It's a unique part of history, and it's right here in our backyard.
But a few years ago, the city of Hideout, with the help of City Council member Chris Beyer, wanted to bring the Keetley Valley story back to life.
So this is the trail signage,
Where if you now hike around the lake, the history will literally guide
and
you.
we added Waterway, and this is Waterway West, and Keetley, which is Keetley West. We want everyone to know that this actually happened. American citizens were rounded up and forced to give up their homes and their possessions and relocate in a way that is unimaginable to some of us. And we don't want to forget that that happened.
And to make sure those who visit the Jordanelle Reservoir don't forget, they also put up photos and listed the names of every member of the Keetley Valley colony.
So here's Grandpa.
Yeah, look at it, 29 years old.
Grandma.
25.
You were 4.
Four,
then,
and my sister.
Auntie was
4 months.
A chance for survivors like my father to retrace and then pass along their personal story.
Any emotions seeing this?
Well, kind of tongue-tied. Yeah. So what does that make me? Part of history?
You were historical, man.
Wow.
And in part 2 of our story coming up later this hour, I'll introduce you to some of the last remaining survivors of the Keetley Valley colony, including one who is 95 years old. You'll also learn more about the man Fred Wada, who led the group. His daughter Mary lives in Benicia and is the keeper of his story. Still ahead, honoring its history, how an East Bay city is taking new steps to acknowledge the indigenous people who lived on the land for generations. And a reminder, you can stream CBS News Bay Area wherever, whenever. Catch all of our live newscasts plus news and weather updates throughout the day. Find us on the free CBS News app or on Pluto TV.
It's breezy in some communities for us today. For example, Solano County under a wind advisory until 5 o'clock tonight. Other than that, though, our coastline's getting some gusty conditions too. All the way into the evening hours, we could see close to around 30 to 40 mile per hour winds along our coast. That'll last into the evening hours tonight and then die down nicely into the forecast tomorrow. But let's take it a step back and talk more about today. Heading into this afternoon, our daytime highs are warming up into the 60s near San Francisco. And if you live along the coast, we'll continue to see low 60s in the forecast today, matched with those breezy conditions. Inland areas warming up into the 80s, anywhere from Antioch off into Concord, with 70s near the wine country region and 70s down into the Santa Clara Valley. As we head into this week's forecast, we'll continue to see dry, warm weather until Saturday. Saturday, a cold front approaches, but we'll have more on that coming up in just a bit.
Well, it's becoming more of a common concept to see land acknowledgement statements adopted at university schools and public buildings. But an East Bay city is taking it one step further. The city of Lafayette recently unveiled 2 projects to symbolize its commitment to honoring its indigenous heritage. Max Darrow caught up with a young woman who says it's a gesture that goes a long way.
These words now painted on a utility box in downtown Lafayette.
Any land acknowledgement is great.
Mean a lot to Bella Stratford.
It brings a feeling of pride that we are even here reading a land acknowledgement. I just feel so grateful that our city is doing this.
Stratford was there as city leaders, including Vice Mayor Wei Tai Kwok, unveiled not just one, but 2 gestures of respect to honor the indigenous heritage and rich history of the land long before Lafayette existed. First, the utility box wrap with the city's official land acknowledgement statement and an illustration of Sakhalin women.
A land acknowledgement statement is basically recognizing where we are and who the land originally belonged to.
And second, 2 new street signs on Mount Diablo Boulevard that now also include Tushtak.
It's the Ohlone word for Mount Diablo, so that's pretty cool that it's just part of our culture and our history, and it's up there on a sign for everyone to watch and see. It's just a sign, but it has so much more meaning behind that.
Kwok says the city consulted with indigenous elders on the projects meant to pay respect to the Bay, Miwok, and Ohlone people.
Indigenous communities lived here before, and that their descendants continue to walk with us today in our communities, and we should acknowledge their presence. And in order to continue to honor and make their presence known in our community, we decided to honor them through the placement of some of these very public signage and history.
Stratford's heritage is Cherokee. Although a different indigenous group than the ones recognized here in Lafayette, she feels empowered by and grateful for the gesture.
No, it looks great.
From the city she's proud to call home.
To step outside of my doorstep and to see Native representation is really incredible, and a huge step towards inclusivity and just making our city more diverse. And I'm just so proud to say I'm a Lafayette member.
2 signs of respect that she and city leaders hope others around the Bay Area will take note of and learn from.
Ann Stratford is a senior at Camp Alindo High School and helped write her school's land acknowledgement statement. She's headed to Berkeley in the fall, where she plans to major in Native American Studies. Coming up in our next half hour on CBS News Bay Area, the growth in one Bay Area city is directly tied to the amount of its housing it is building, how Emeryville's proactive approach is paying off. Plus, we have more on the story of Japanese Americans who escape internment camps. We'll learn about the Oakland man who led his neighbors out of the state and to safety. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is the Minute. May Day protests are underway right here in the Bay Area. This is a look at 24th and Mission near the BART station in San Francisco. From Chopper 5, you can see workers gathered on the street holding signs. This is one of several demonstrations planned for today. Police on the peninsula released this video of officers chasing down a suspect accused of snatching goods from a San Mateo Target store. San Mateo, Daly City, and San Bruno officers all teamed up to crack down on retail theft. During a 7-month operation, police arrested 88 people and recovered more than 700 stolen items. The group behind the campaign, California Forever, who are looking to build a whole new city, has submitted enough signatures to be added to the November ballot. Critics have said it would be better to build within existing cities rather than convert farmland. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is The Minute.
It has been a beautiful, warm, dry day for us today, and we're going to continue to see that weather last into our Thursday and Friday forecast as high pressure continues to move in from offshore. But then we see a big change as we head into our weekend forecast as a storm system approaches from the north, bringing in a cold front that will change the weather completely. We're talking about rainy skies by Saturday, cooler weather too, and of course some gusty conditions to match it all up. And speaking of gusty conditions, our inland areas are under a wind advisory, at least near Solano County, until 5 o'clock today. With that in mind, we can see wind gusts close to around 30 to 40 miles per hour at times, but we'll also notice that along our coastline, despite the fact that we're not under a wind advisory there. So if you live near Bodega Bay or Half Moon Bay, keep in mind those winds are going to last into the evening hours tonight. At least it's dry though. Once we head into our Friday night, early Saturday morning forecast, that's when that cold front approaches, bringing in a series of showers for us all throughout the Bay Area, and then we dry up quick as we head into Sunday. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Let's take it a step back and let's talk more about today though. 70s are expected for us today up into the North Bay near Napa and Vallejo, and we get so close to the 80s up in those communities, but we actually hit the 80s once we head off into the East Bay near Concord and Antioch, with upper 70s stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley. But I can't forget the coastline too. 60s in the forecast near those microclimates today, upper 60s near San Francisco. Let's take a quick look at what we can expect in our inland areas real fast, and then we'll head to the Bay. 80s, and more, well, 70s at least as we head into our Friday forecast. It's not until Saturday where that cold front comes in and really drops those temperatures fast into the 50s, but then we have a nice recovery. Into Sunday and Monday we go right back up into the 70s for our inland areas. That's going to be a beautiful forecast for us as we head into next week. But if you live along the bay, closer to Oakland or San Francisco, we're holding on tight to the 70s for now. We'll cool down into the 50s as that cold front approaches, and then averaging out into the 60s as we head into early next week with partly cloudy skies in the forecast.
Well, we talked a lot about California's exodus and the rise of remote work during the pandemic had people ditching the Golden State and its high housing costs. But for the very first time since 2020, California's population is growing again. The state's finance department released new numbers showing there were more than 39 million people living in California at the end of last year. That's a gain of about 67,000 from the previous year. Several Bay Area communities are also growing. Napa, the smallest county in the region, saw the biggest percentage gain. San Francisco, Contra Costa, Santa Clara also saw modest population growth, but other parts of the Bay Area lost people, including Alameda, Marin, San Mateo, and Sonoma counties. One Bay Area city's growth was specifically tied to the amount of housing it's producing. Our John Ramos reports from Emeryville, where a building boom appears to be paying off. And we should know more people are still moving out of California to other states. That's moving in. About 505,000 people left the state last year, while 414,000 people came here from other states. That's been the trend for decades. But the good news is the number of people leaving for other parts of the country fell back to pre-pandemic levels. We move now to the second part of my personal story. We now move to the second part of my personal story of Keetley Valley. My father was part of a group of 130 Japanese Americans who escaped the internment camps and found safety in the state of Utah. Now we learn more about the man, Fred Wada, the Oakland produce owner who led the colony out of California. You also meet the handful of survivors whose families made the courageous decision to escape incarceration and live free.
On a summer day in August, a group of Japanese Americans whose lives began in California gathered in the state of Utah for a reunion to remember their history, to remember their past.
This is such a fascinating story.
You think so?
Including the most senior of the group, 94-year-old May Yamada Kong.
You're still sharp.
No, I don't think so, because something that happened 2 weeks ago, I can't remember.
But you remember 80 years ago.
And to understand what happened more than 80 years ago in 1942.
How many photos do you have?
Oh, we
have you collected over the years?
Quite a lot.
Take a look inside the Benicia home of Mary Wada Roth.
And these pictures here, I think, are important.
Where you'll find an archive of documents that tell this little-known story that all centers on this single photograph.
I mean, this is probably the most famous photo
The
out of
iconic.
Keetley.
I think so.
Oh my gosh, what was this taken?
Keetley.
Keetley?
A photo sparking more than just a memory, but reuniting old friends.
Picture. You are in this picture?
Yeah, this guy here.
Oh my God. Jerry Endo. How cute.
These are the children of what is known as the Keetley Valley Colony. During World War II, while 120,000 Japanese Americans on the West Coast were rounded up and sent to internment camps, Mary's father, Fred Wada, an Oakland produce owner, decided to do the unthinkable.
When he realized that he didn't have to go to camp, he said, I'm not going to camp. He says, I'm going to relocate somewhere else. He said, I'm not going to be a ward of the government.
Where Wada and a group of 130 family members and friends made the courageous decision to escape the internment camps and live free in the state of Utah. But first, he needed to get permission.
So my father went to Utah, to Salt Lake City, met with the governor. He told Governor Ma that he was bringing a group of Americans, Japanese citizens who've been loyal, and he told them if there is anyone amongst the group who does anything disloyal or breaks the law, he says, you could put me in front of a shooting squad and shoot me. He was a believer. He loved cowboy movies, and that was one of the things that he said was you could put me in front of a shooting squad and shoot me.
That bravado paid off. The governor was impressed, and with travel passes like these in hand, they made the trek from the Bay Area to Keetley Valley, 40 miles east of Salt Lake City.
So this is them clearing the land. As you can see there aren't, there's only one tractor.
So when they got there, I mean, this wasn't farmland.
It wasn't farmland, it was all sagebrush.
Fred Wada also making sure their Utah neighbors knew they were loyal to their country, especially after someone tried to scare them with a stick of dynamite.
And so signs like this, Food for Freedom, was important to my father, to say that we are Americans and we're making food for Americans.
Do you remember this photo?
Yes, absolutely.
Kim and Helen were only 6 and 3 when their family fled Oakland and followed Fred Wada.
There you are. Just
posing.
So sassy. That is exactly the way you are.
So you were the sassy one?
Yes, she was. And that's the way she still is.
Oh, no.
I thought you were the sassy one.
Not me. I was the quiet one. We had a lot of friends to play with because we were all in this one, little village, and so we had friends that we could play with. Gracie's gone though, and.
But as those memories begin to fade, the last survivors of the Keetley colony making sure to pass their story on to the next generation.
Thank goodness we had Mr. Fred Wada.
Just ask 94-year-old May Yamada Kong what she remembers.
I don't know.
And instead, she'll tell you what she will never forget.
You were able to live free.
We were able to live free.
Also, 1 year ago, we first brought you the story about the rediscovery of these long-lost photos. These images show the faces of Japanese Americans only days before they were shipped off to internment camps back in 1942. Well, after the original story aired, several people reached out to our station saying they believed they had recognized their family members. And this past month, two cousins from Chicago who saw our story decided to make the journey to Northern California in search of more answers about their family history.
This is our grandfather, Kazuma Hayashi. I saw the first video when my brother sent it to me. He lives in San Francisco. And he lives in the San Francisco area. He forwarded it to me, and then I looked at it and immediately spotted my mother.
Women.
Mom, there she is. I spotted her, and then I spotted my grandmother.
Oh, there she is.
Grandma. And my brother was surprised because he had not spotted my grandmother.
So this is Grandma.
Well, this evening we continue our launch of AAPI Heritage Month with a follow-up to this story and show you the power of storytelling and how it does connect families and people. Up next is a brand new workout inspired by the military. Vern Glenn puts on a backpack and shows you what rucking is all about.
Up into wine country. We have 70s down into the Santa Clara Valley, but heading into the next couple days, no matter where you live, we're going to enjoy this dry, warm weather until the weekend as daytime highs drop down into the 50s with rainy skies as a cold front approaches us. Luckily, it only lasts into Saturday because by Sunday we warm up once again.
Well, there's a sea lion invasion on Pier 39 at Fisherman's Wharf. Probably heard it. Herds of sea lions usually like to hang out there, but not like the numbers you're about to see right here. And, well, they're pretty vocal. You can hear them. They're just chilling right there. Over 1,000 sea lions were lounging at the pier on Monday. That's something the city has not seen in 15 years. It turns out They are after the food the bay is filled with. Lots of anchovies and herring right now, and that's also brought out the tourists.
They're so amazing. They're very beautiful, massive. This is so huge. Very, very cool to watch.
Pretty cool. I've never seen this many sea lions in one place before. It looks like a bunch of kids vying for a good spot on the couch.
Well, the last time the sea lion count was this high was in 2009 when the docks had a record high, 1,700 sea lions. Well, there are plenty of beautiful spots to go hiking in the Bay Area, but for some, just walking the trails is not enough. What if you could burn even more calories? Our Vern Glenn tells us all you have to do is ruck.
Every morning, fitness trainer Bria Rubin shows up with the urge to ruck.
You can ruck on a dog walk. You can ruck in between your kids' baseball games.
Right.
You can ruck as you're waiting for your kids. You can ruck with a friend.
With backpacks, weighted with water, and avid hikers, they march, they ruck through some of the most scenic Marin landscapes, burning more calories than they would in a normal hike. So this is rucking, conditioning related to the military. That's where the term comes from.
Well, how come we're the only company marching every Friday night, 12 miles full pack in the pitch dark?
This is a much better pace.
Just bring your knees up a little bit, little march. It's okay if it slows you down.
It's not for the weak.
Well, I guess you have to work yourself up
You
to
do,
it.
you do. Good mental preparation.
Right? One finger this way is fine, but you really, really want it to be tight because you want the weight to be on your hips. You're doing it for several weeks, and then you realize my glutes are stronger. You know, I'm walking faster, my shoulders are back, my core is stronger. I am stronger.
I've been rucking 3 times a week for the past 2 weeks.
What, you're hooked?
Yes.
I bet you have no standing heart rate, huh?
I do. My heart's always beating. My heart's always beating. Why am I going to pay someone to take me on a hike? I mean, we live in Marin County. It's beautiful everywhere, and I get it. But I will say you've got to try it. I mean, meeting new people, friends supporting each other, that is really the magic of rucking.
And coming up, how some college-bound seniors are benefiting from a special scholarship program that will pay for more than just education.
It's breezy in some communities for us today. For example, Solano County under a wind advisory until 5 o'clock tonight. Other than that, though, our coastline's getting some gusty conditions too. All the way into the evening hours, we could see close to around 30 to 40 mile per hour winds along our coast. That'll last into the evening hours tonight and then die down nicely into the forecast tomorrow. But let's take it a step back and talk more about today. Heading into this afternoon, our daytime highs are warming up into the 60s near San Francisco. And if you live along the coast, we'll continue to see low 60s in the forecast today, matched with those breezy conditions. Inland areas warming up into the 80s, anywhere from Antioch off into Concord, with 70s near the wine country region and 70s down into the Santa Clara Valley. As we head into this week's forecast, we'll continue to see dry, warm weather until Saturday. Saturday, a cold front approaches, but we'll have more on that coming up in just a bit.
Well, today, the Dave Goldberg Scholarship Program, created by former Meta executive Sheryl Sandberg, announces a new class of scholars. It honors the legacy of Sandberg's late husband and supports students from low-income families who are the first in their families to go to four-year colleges. John Chitton has talked to one scholar from the peninsula who represents the expanded reach of that program.
Valeria Chavez Franco has a lot to smile about as her senior year comes to an end at Woodside Priory School. She knew college was in her future, even with limited resources growing up, and as the first in her family to go to a four-year university.
It's always been because I've had a really amazing community of mentors and of supporters behind me.
A standout student who had several extracurriculars to keep her busy, the decision she faces this week is one many students would envy. Her choice of admission to 4 selective colleges across the country.
I think that's how first-generation scholars can really succeed, is with the support of everyone around them.
She's part of the 2024 class of Dave Goldberg Scholars, a program from the Sandberg-Goldberg-Bernthal Family Foundation. Launched several years ago to help low-income first-gen students get to college and succeed once they go there, the program expanded in 2023 to partner with Peninsula Bridge, a nonprofit that pulls promising students from more than 50 schools between San Mateo and Mountain View in 4th grade and mentors them up until their college graduation.
We really do believe that all of our scholars deserve a chance to thrive and succeed, and each one has the potential to be successful on the college and career path with our 13-year program model.
The Dave Goldberg Scholarship provides a life-changing amount of financial support by paying for all the costs around college, like transportation, supplies, and opportunities to study and do research outside of a college campus.
There are so many additional costs. The college financing piece is so difficult for first-gen underrepresented students, and there are so many barriers to being a successful college student.
Students like Valeria are grateful and say it fuels their passion to advocate for more access to higher education. She plans to study sociology in college so she can have an impact on the community around her.
The lessons that I learn and the lessons that I take away from this experience are the lessons that I pass on. And that's how you create generational knowledge, and that's how you also create generational success.
A passion to be the first with a commitment to help others so she isn't the last.
Well, thanks for seeing me, CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. We'll be right back with the First Alert forecast and a look at your top stories. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is the Minute. May Day protests are underway right here in the Bay Area. This is a look from our chopper at 24th and Mission near the BART station in San Francisco. You can see workers gathered on the street holding signs. This is one of several demonstrations planned for today. Alameda County voters will now get to decide whether or not to recall District Attorney Pamela Price. The Board of Supervisors gave them the green light for the vote. Another meeting is set to decide whether to have a special election or add the recall to the November ballot. Ferry service is up and running again between Sausalito and San Francisco. The Golden Gate Ferry service was suspended last month after damage was spotted on one of the 4 piles of the Sausalito Pier. Repairs have been completed and the pier was declared safe. The Bay Area's only primetime newscast at 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus 44 Cable 12. I'm Brian Yamamoto. This is The Minute.
It has been a beautiful, warm, dry day for us today, and we're going to continue to see that weather last into our Thursday and Friday forecast as high pressure continues to move in from offshore. But then we see a big change as we head into our weekend forecast as a storm system approaches from the north, bringing in a cold front that will change the weather completely. We're talking about rainy skies by Saturday, cooler weather too, and of course some gusty conditions to match it all up. And speaking of gusty conditions, our inland areas are under a wind advisory, at least near Solano County, until 5 o'clock today. With that in mind, we can see wind gusts close to around 30 to 40 miles per hour at times, but we'll also notice that along our coastline, despite the fact that we're not under a wind advisory there. So if you live near Bodega Bay or Half Moon Bay, keep in mind those winds are going to last into the evening hours tonight. At least it's dry though. Once we head into our Friday night, early Saturday morning forecast, that's when that cold front approaches, bringing in a series of showers for us all throughout the Bay Area, and then we dry up quick as we head into Sunday. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Let's take it a step back and let's talk more about today though. 70s are expected for us today up into the North Bay near Napa and Vallejo, and we get so close to the 80s up in those communities, but we actually hit the 80s once we head off into the East Bay near Concord and Antioch, with upper 70s stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley. But I can't forget the coastline too. 60s in the forecast near those microclimates today, upper 60s near San Francisco. Let's take a quick look at what we can expect in our inland areas real fast, and then we'll head to the Bay. 80s and more, well, 70s at least as we head into our Friday forecast. It's not until Saturday where that cold front comes in and really drops those temperatures fast into the 50s, but then we have a nice recovery. Into Sunday and Monday we go right back up into the 70s for our